Hi, everybody. Are you experiencing gaslighting? Has chronic exposure to gaslighting affected your ability to thrive? Are you suffering as a consequence or feeling very unsure about what everything is and even possibly who you are? Today on the I Care About You podcast, we will discuss what is gaslighting, why people do it, how can you recognize it when it happens to you, and what kind of responses can you have when you feel that you are a victim of gaslighting. So first off, what is gaslighting? Gaslighting is a form of abuse in which someone denies your reality, which then makes you question your own experiences and beliefs. It can be highly damaging when it bleeds into your daily thoughts, your tasks, and your impressions of things. When this happens, it can make you question your sense of judgment, your decision-making processes, and how you advocate for your own needs and beliefs. It can make you ask yourself about your abilities and knowledge and question if you're even capable of doing things you used to be able to do before, or questioning exactly how smart you are. Living in a relationship that uses gaslighting on a regular basis can leave you questioning who you are and what your reality even is. Some people who've experienced gaslighting to a really severe degree even question what their own history is because their own history has been retold to them in a different way. It can lead to self-deprecating beliefs or an internalized lack of self-worth. Gaslighting is a tool used by manipulative people. It is itself a form of manipulation. Why do people gaslight others? Gaslighting is much more common than you think. I recently experienced it while speaking to a contractor about work that needed to be done in the place that I live. People who present as female or marginalized folks may experience gaslighting more frequently simply because it's easier to discredit someone who has already culturally not been taken seriously. Many people who value being the authority or all-knowing often feel that they can gaslight others, whether consciously or subconsciously, simply because that was what was modeled to them. It may be an internal bias that certain folks aren't as viable as others, or it might be just chronically watching other people do it in order to get what they need. Now, the truth is, we all do a little bit of gaslighting. Sometimes it's intentional, sometimes it may be intentional, but it's when the person is really using it to control and manipulate you into a different space, and you start to lose sight of who you are, what your reality, and even what your past is, or what your likes and dislikes or beliefs are. The bottom line is that people use gaslighting to control others. They use gaslighting to construct a narrative that keeps the gaslighter, the person doing the gaslighting, in the right, and the partner in the wrong. Gaslighting is often part of a power dynamic where the manipulation is an intent to control someone or even a group of people. Regarding the group of people, gaslighting can be seen in politics where power is achieved by retelling the past with a different narrative and in such a way that it rallies supporters behind the cause they might not otherwise undertake or value. This can also be seen in the othering of folks. By pitching a group of folks as invalid based on untruths, myths, stereotypes, racism, sexism, ageism, etc., the gaslighter can create an us and them collective mentality to have control and power over folks that they are othering. So it's giving this group more power over another group due to retelling a story that might not be accurate at all. Sometimes gaslighting is fleeting, like my experience with a contractor who wanted to change reality to change the quote to get more money, but it can also be chronic in relationships. It can be so subtle that we don't even realize it's happening to us. Why? Perhaps because we question our reality through social perceptions, low self-esteem, low self-worth, or simply out of kindness. We harbor a belief inside of ourselves that we might not be right. So what I'm saying here is gaslighters often take advantage of those parts of you once they get to know you that they can manipulate or use in their own benefit. It might be that you're a kind person. It might be that you have low self-esteem or self-worth. It might be that you are already feeling marginalized or something of that nature, and they take advantage of that in order to get you to believe their story rather than your own truths. Luckily, there are ways to recognize this when it happens to you. So how do you recognize gaslighting? Here are 10 red flags to consider, but there are certainly more. But to me, I feel like these are the top 10. Often gaslighters will shift the blame to you. One main way people gaslight is by shifting blame to another person to avoid accountability. It's known as deflection. A classic example is when an abuser blames the victim for the abuse with a "you made me do it" kind of mindset. It can be a person who cannot take responsibility for making a mistake. And they might say things like, "You don't have the right to be mad. I should be mad at you for what you did over here." They can't take the responsibility for the blame. In an individualistic society like the US, we often do this a lot because we feel pressure to be perfect all the time. Everyone does this from time to time because, let's face it, it's hard to admit your own mistakes. When this type of behavior becomes chronic, we need to notice it in others and in ourselves. We might not even realize we are gaslighting others because it's just really our inability to admit we were wrong. I will say I've been guilty of shifting blame, especially if I think I am always admitting blame and not being heard or seen. I'll get really defensive about what I know because I'm trying to be heard and seen. It doesn't make it right, but I certainly do this myself. Often I justify it because it's so incredibly hard to find value in the world. The point is, we all do this in some way, and we all have reasons why we do it. But if you're in a relationship where that is a really chronic thing and it's starting to get you to question your own beliefs and who you are, and your own reality or truth about the situation at hand, that's when it's kind of gone over the deep end. So number 2, denial of the truth. This is textbook gaslighting. This is a classic power play for power and control. By denying obvious truth, the victim loses sight of what they consider right and wrong. They start questioning their beliefs and their reality. They even start thinking, did that even happen? When this happens, you can begin to question your own reality. And I've certainly had this happen to me with the retelling of my own past when I was in an abusive relationship. The person who was gaslighting me retold my own childhood to me with a slant on my family being bad. And I bought it until I was able to get out of the relationship and really reflect back on it. I actually bought this narrative of my own history. It's really easy to fall victim to this because you think the person that's gaslighting you, it really loves you and is trying to be kind to you, but all along it's something else. So number 3, minimizing or dismissing your needs. This is another example of classic gaslighting in relationships. You can be dismissed, such as your need is silly, or it's too much, you're expecting too much, or just simply not caring at all about your needs, not giving them the time of day. They may say things like, "You're so needy," when you ask for something. The outcome of this is that you question and doubt yourself. Self-doubt is very powerful. It can keep you in a relationship for years and decades simply because you feel that this relationship is as good as it gets. You will never have somebody better than the person who's gaslighting you. And that's really what someone who is manipulating through gaslighting is trying to do. They're trying to put you in a space where you feel like you can't do any better or get any better, that you have no self-esteem. They've retold your own history to you, so you've now become sort of estranged from others who might support you, and then they can keep you in the relationship. So a sidebar here, anytime you stay in a relationship because you think you can't have it better or that no one else will want to be in a relationship with you, you are in deep trouble. Those are not good reasons to be in a relationship. They are red flags that you are being manipulated in some way by self-doubt, your partner, or both. All those things play into it. So if that's some of your thought about a relationship you're in, that's a very big red flag. Number 4, disapproving of you or being overly critical. Constant disapproval can be subtle, and many gaslighters control their victims through this. When I was in an abusive relationship, my partner often used this tactic to keep me down. They didn't like my physical features, the clothes I wore, the things I said, my beliefs. They ridiculed my judgments and my choices as I didn't know what I was doing. They may even over criticize your friends and loved ones. That certainly happened to me, as I mentioned earlier. You may in turn internalize these criticisms as your own beliefs and start denying your own reality or the beliefs you had prior to meeting the person. Number 5, isolation. They isolate you away in order to control you. We talked about this a little bit. It's a very common tactic for isolating or alienating you from your support system to gain more control. This is another thing that happened to me in my abusive relationship. As I said, my parents and family were pitched as not understanding, not smart, not having my best intentions at heart, being old-fashioned. They would point out all the flaws my friends had and judge them super, super harshly. They would disapprove of the time I spent with anyone that wasn't of their choosing. By masking this type of verbal abuse as pitching it as support, they're only looking out for your best interest. So they feel the need to point out to you that your family is this or that, or your friends are this or that. They're sheltering this verbal abuse in actual support, which is not true. They are taking away your ability to decide on what you want in life, but they're masking it as, I'm just looking out for you. One way to see this is to analyze the following. Of the friends you hang out with, who are the ones you bring to the group? Who are the ones your partner brings? Is it balanced? Also, are you more estranged from your family than you've been in the past? Do you harbor more negative feelings about your family and loved ones than you did in the past? You often begin to believe their version of the truth. Their version is usually alienates you further from your family, just bringing up all these crazy things about your childhood or your family that maybe you never thought of before. Maybe we're not even actually truly there. They are bringing it up in order to alienate you from those folks a little bit more. Number 6, using your emotions to control you, saying that they did things you might not agree with out of love for you, using your own emotions against you. We talked about manipulative relations in a prior podcast. Once they know your emotions, beliefs, and ideas, they use it against you. They may also discredit your feelings, saying that you're silly or your emotion is uncalled for. They may say things like, you don't really feel that way, it's not a big deal, in order to get you to question your own truth. 7, forgetting things you say. This is a classic gaslighter move. They pretend they have forgotten what took place or they deny it ever happened. And they're very, very convincing. So you start wondering if it actually happened or not. 8, they withhold information. By not telling you the whole story, they undermine your ability to feel confident about what you know. Sometimes they use this tactic to discredit you in public. For example, if you're talking about something that you think you have the whole story on, only to be contradicted by your partner in a group setting, they may even keep details from you so that you will come to a different conclusion than you would if you knew the whole story. So they use that lying by omission to control you further, either by humiliating you in public or by changing your perspective of the story. And if you knew all the facts, you probably wouldn't come to that same perspective. 9, accusing you of being paranoid. Accusations that the person is paranoid is another common example of gaslighting. They say things like, you're crazy, you're just being paranoid, which comes back to the gaslighter seeking control of the victim's perceptions. So what they're doing there is downplaying all of your emotions or perceptions. They're saying that you have some sort of extreme response to things and that therefore they can discredit how you feel. 10, using public humiliation to keep you in check. This may be just between their own friend group or in larger groups, such as at work or a party setting. We talked about this a little in the prior points about withholding information. It is just another way to invalidate you and to make you question your own reality. They wait till you're in this public setting and then they humiliate you with this gaslighting approach, and it silences you. Over time, it'll silence you and you won't really go to people when you need help because you're silenced. Do you see the common theme here? The intention is to make you question your own reality. If you've been suffering in a relationship like this for a while, you may find it hard to recognize when these things happen because it's become commonplace for you. If you are used to being devalued, you may also find it challenging to know when you're being gaslighted. Here are a few common phrases that will help you realize when someone is trying to gaslight you. Realize that we all say these things from time to time, but it doesn't make us gaslighters. When the behavior associated with these phrases becomes chronic and the intention is to make you question who you are and what you believe, then it becomes damaging. When it is now and again, it can be easier to check in on ourselves and not let these phrases reshape what we know. But when it's chronic all the time, it just becomes part of the daily narrative that you've internalized about yourself. So here are a few phrases you might hear from a gaslighter often. I never said that. That never happened. You made that up. That's a big one. You don't know what you're talking about. Why are you making this such a big deal? No one really cares about it. You're being too sensitive. You're being too dramatic. You have a problem. A lot of times, if they have issues, they might flip that on you and say the problem is yours, not theirs. And that's what we talked about, kind of deflecting their own guilt in the situation or their own actions in this that participated in the situation. They're saying it's all you, not them. This is stupid. You're being over emotional. You're crazy. You're just really insecure. And this sentence they might say with anything they've pinned on you, as they know this is one of your self-doubt internal beliefs. They will turn it against you. Like, you're insecure. You just have low self-esteem. You're just not confident in what you know, things like that. You're imagining things. You don't really feel that way. A lot of times they will use phrases that tell you how you're supposed to react. You don't feel that way. You won't do that. You don't need that. Those types of things where they're couching it as though they care about you, but it's really they're trying to make you do what they want you to do. You're just being paranoid. Those are some of the things that you might hear, and it might be said in different ways, but the meaning is the same. And when you hear any of that, basically somebody discounting how you feel, what you believe, or what you saw, question that in your mind. How to respond to gaslighting. If you find yourself routinely experiencing confusion, guilt, shame, uncertainty, and self-doubt, you might be affected by gaslighting. If you've noticed this in yourself, find self-compassion within yourself first and foremost, and remind yourself that this isn't your fault. Remind yourself that your feelings are valued and that you're right about how you feel, what happened, and what your beliefs are. Give yourself permission to feel how you feel and to know what the truth is for you. Find folks who validate and support you. Consider having hard boundaries with the gaslighter in your life. Maybe you have to distance yourself if the problem is chronic, but remind yourself that it's not your fault and you're not to blame. If you feel safe enough, you might use certain phrases that both let the gaslighter know that you aren't buying it and also reinforce your own knowledge and reinforce a boundary. Here are a few of the things you can say to someone who you feel is gaslighting you. My feelings and reality are valid. You are trying to retell my childhood, my friendship, whatever it is, to me, and you do not know the truth. I do. I don't appreciate you telling me that I'm too sensitive or too emotional or too paranoid or whatever it is. I don't appreciate it. You are not hearing me. This is how I feel, whatever it is that you feel in the moment. Stick to that. If they say you don't feel that way, say this is how I feel. Continue to say the same messaging over and over and over again. I am allowed to have my own opinion, my own feelings, and my own understanding about this situation. And the biggie, I know what I saw. I know what I heard. I know what I felt. I know what I believe. Here are some phrases that you can use to kind of set boundaries or start setting boundaries with the gaslighter. Don't tell me how I feel. If you cannot respond to how I feel, I cannot continue this conversation. Don't tell me what I know. I am not asking you to tell me what happened. I am asking you to respect my take on this situation. If you can't respect my point of view, then this conversation is not worth moving forward. Don't redefine my experience. You are speculating on something that I already know about. I do not need you to define my experiences to me. I will need to leave this conversation if you can't respect my knowledge. I will not continue this conversation if you continue to minimize what I am feeling. You are not telling the whole truth right now, and I cannot continue this conversation if you can't be truthful. Suppose your attempts to reinforce healthy boundaries with a gaslighter are not honored. In that case, you can decide whether your relationship is worth continuing. Even when the gaslighting is unintentional, it is still harmful to the receiver. And the behavior always comes from a controlling place on the part of the person gaslighting you. As always, keep yourself safe. Manipulative partners can be dangerous. If you are in immediate danger, call 911. For anonymous and confidential help, you can call the National Domestic Violence Hotline at 1-800-799-7233. And that way you can speak to a trained advocate. And feel free to do that as many times as you need to. They're there to help you. They're available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And keep yourself safe. If you're not feeling safe about it, find somebody you can confide in and talk to about the situation. Remember to surround yourself with support and folks who validate you and your beliefs and your experiences. Seek out a form of help and a good therapist or a healer. Set boundaries and take time to retell your vision of the story to yourself, even if it's only to yourself because you don't feel safe to say anything outright to the particular person who might be gaslighting you. Do that internal dialogue for yourself. Like, I do know what I'm talking about. I do know what the truth is. I do know how I feel. I am worth a relationship where I don't have to defend these things about myself. Affirm your own knowledge. Learn to understand when you are being manipulated and how to keep safe and care for your own mental health. If possible, help the person you're dealing with seek help. Sometimes the manipulator is hurting themselves. It isn't your job to help them. That's not what I'm saying. But it might be worth exploring the conversation if the people that you are in this relationship with are part of your family or somebody that you can't distance yourself from. Maybe there's no way to decouple from that person, but you can, if you feel there's space, possibly help them find a therapist or a healer or whatever it is that they need themselves. But that's not your responsibility. You don't have to do that at all. And if somebody is really abusing you, your priority is to keep yourself safe and to do what's right for you. So as always, my friends, know that I support you and I love you. And I hope this has helped just a little bit. Please like and subscribe and leave a comment if you enjoyed this video, and I hope to see you again in the future. Take care.